In today's video, we're going to take a look at the consequences of multicollinearity. Even if multicollinearity is very high, the OLS estimators still retain the property of blue, that is, they're best, linear and unbiased. But the OLS estimators have large variances and covariances, and this makes precise estimation difficult. Because of high variances and covariances, the confidence intervals tend to be much wider. Also, the t-ratio of one or more coefficients tends to be statistically insignificant. And although the t-ratio of one or more coefficients is statistically insignificant, R square, the overall measure of goodness of fit, can be very high. Now, let's look at the consequences of presence of multicollinearity in more detail. First, let's look at the large variances and covariances of the OLS estimators. In this three-variable regression model, the variances and covariances of beta 2 and beta 3 are given by these formulae. Here, R23 is the coefficient of correlation between x2 and x3. Taking a look at the first equation, we can see that as R23 tends towards 1, that is, as collinearity increases, the variances of the estimator beta 2 cap increases, and when R23 is equal to 1, the variance is infinite. Also, as R23 increases toward 1, the covariance of the two estimators also increases. The speed with which variances and covariances increase can be seen with the variance inflating factor VIF. VIF shows how the variance of an estimator is inflated by the presence of multicollinearity. As R23 square approaches 1, the VIF approaches infinity. That is, as the extent of multicollinearity increases, the variance increases and it can become infinite. If there is no collinearity between x2 and x3, VIF will be 1. From these two formulae, we can show the relation between VIF and the variances of the estimators. The variances of beta 2 cap and beta 3 cap are directly proportional to the VIF. To give some idea about how fast the variances and covariances increase as R23 increases, consider this table. The table shows the effect of multicollinearity on the variance of beta 2. The level of effect can be seen with the VIF. As R23 increases, it has a dramatic effect on the variances and covariances of the OLS estimators. The orange box shows the VIF and variance of beta 2 cap when R23 is 0, that is, when there is no multicollinearity. When R23 is equal to 0.50, the VIF is 1.33, which means the variance of beta 2 cap is 1.33 times more than the variance when there is no multicollinearity. By the time R23 reaches 0.95, it is about 10 times as high as when there is no multicollinearity. And when R23 is 0.995, it makes the variance 100 times as when there is no multicollinearity. This can be seen in the figure. An increase of R23 to 0.5 is gradual. When the level of multicollinearity increases even more, there is a steep rise in the variance. So, this is how we calculate the variance in a model with two regressors. In a model with k regressors, the variance can be calculated with the given formula. So here, you can see that variance of beta j cap is proportional to sigma square and VIF, but inversely proportional to xj square. The next consequence of presence of multicollinearity is wider confidence intervals and insignificant t-ratios. A confidence interval is a range of values we are fairly sure our true mean lies in. If the values fall in the shaded region, the null hypothesis will be accepted. 5%, that is 2.5% on both sides, is the rejection region. In the case of multicollinearity, because the variance and the standard error increases, the confidence interval widens, as variance and standard error is used to calculate the confidence interval. And this leads to type 2 error. The hypothesis that needs to be rejected may be accepted. The probability of accepting a false hypothesis increases. To test the null hypothesis beta 2 is equal to 0, we compare the t ratio, that is beta 2 cap by standard error of beta 2 cap, with the critical t value. If the estimated t value is less than the critical t value, we accept the null hypothesis, and if it's greater, we reject H0. In cases of high multicollinearity, the estimated standard errors increase dramatically, and this makes the t value smaller. Therefore, we may accept the null hypothesis, leading to a type 2 error. Now let's look at the next consequence of multicollinearity. A high R square but few significant t ratios. Consider this k variable linear regression model. One of the signals of high multicollinearity is that there will be insignificant t values but a high overall R square with a significant f value. Let me explain this more clearly. The t-test tests the significance of individual slope coefficients. For instance, H0 is beta 2 is equal to 0. If there is high multicollinearity, one or more of the partial slope coefficients are individually statistically insignificant on the basis of the t-test, as we already explained. Yet the R square in such situations may be so high, say in excess of 0.9. There also tends to be a significant f value. The f-test tests the overall significance of these coefficients. For instance, H0 can be beta 2 is equal to beta 3 and so on till we get beta k is equal to 0. So, on the basis of the f-test, we can convincingly reject the hypothesis. So, even though the f-test and R square values show good outcomes, the presence of multicollinearity will make the individual coefficients insignificant when it's not. Finally, let's take a look at the sensitivity of OLS estimators and their standard errors to small changes in the data because of multicollinearity. As long as multicollinearity is not perfect, estimation of the regression coefficients is possible, but the estimates and their standard errors become very sensitive to even the slightest change in data. To explain this, let me show you this table. Based on this data, we obtain the following multiple regression results. Now consider this new table. The only difference between both tables is that the third and fourth values of x3 are interchanged. Using the new data table, we now get the following result. Looking at the t statistics for both the data, as a result of a slight change in the data, the estimated table value of beta 2 cap is greater than 1.96 in the first table but lesser in the new data, which means that beta 2 cap, which was statistically significant before, at the 10% level of significance, is no longer significant even at that level. Also, note that in covariance of beta 2 cap and beta 3 cap is minus 0.00868, whereas in the new data table it is minus 0.0282. There is more than a threefold increase. Likewise, we can see that the standard errors of beta 2 cap and beta 3 cap has increased between the two regression results. All these changes might be because of the increased multicollinearity. In the first table, the coefficient of correlation of x2 and x3, that is the R23, is 0.5523, whereas in the next one it's 0.8285. Now when we add the two partial slope coefficients in the first regression, we get 0.4493, and in the second it's 0.4284, which is practically the same. However, the coefficient of x3 has changed dramatically from 0.003 to 0.027. In the presence of high multicollinearity, we cannot estimate the individual regression coefficients precisely, but that linear combinations of these coefficients may be estimated more precisely. Not only that, the standard errors of all coefficients are also almost the same, 0.1550 versus 0.1823. So you can see how the regression results vary because of the presence of multicollinearity. So that's it for today. See you in the next video.